there any way not to have this? Because in the chat room. Okay, so I can still see chat. It's just that I can see the stream too. So yeah. Anyways, Paranormal Activity was definitely something that took people by storm because it's been like a long time since a found footage movie came out that had enough attention for it to have people recommending it for theaters. I don't know if that was a publicity stunt on the trailer part, but it definitely worked out for them because they got more people in the movie seats. And they were like, a movie so scary, people were recommending it to be put in more theaters. Yeah, so in 1999, Blair Witch came out, and 2007, Paranormal Activity came out, and it capitalized on the absence of an effective found footage genre of movie. Definitely. And it doesn't star too many people. It only stars with two people in the picture right there. Micah, I believe, and the guy, and Kate is he probably like they're living together. They are probably boyfriend and girlfriend on the attempt to be living in boyfriend, living in girlfriend, and they're probably on the edge of marriage or something. Probably like engagement could be around the corner, maybe, because it definitely looks like they're ready to live together. But I don't know. It just seems that way to me. Because I'm like, they're probably ready to get together. Because I don't know if they're trying it out for the first time. It definitely has both vibes when it comes to that sort of relationship between them. So they're pretty much moving into. I don't know if it's a new house, but it's definitely a house that Micah or Kate could own. And so they have this little exposition dump in front of the camera, basically saying, "This is the case ever since I was a kid that I've had something follow me. Like ooh, like Micah's like okay, whatever." I was like okay, and so he's like, "I want to set up a camera at night to film." In case something happens, because she said it happens at night and while she's asleep. So okay, I'm gonna set this up, and during the night, like keys fall off a counter downstairs, and you can hear it. This camera like catches everything, and oh yeah, you can hear that unscrewing of my water bottle. uh, so, and they find it, and they're like, "What's It's like, ooh, it's the ghost," and she's like, "Yeah, whatever." They're pretty much like hitting around with each other, and it doesn't lead to an argument, but it definitely escalates throughout the entire movie. It's something that is foreshadowed that this couple is not afraid to mix it up with each other, and so it definitely has this sort of they've been going out for a while vibe. It's making fun of. Yeah, Micah makes fun of Kate a little bit. It's like, yeah, because of that fact, but she kind of gets over it. And like, yeah, I expect this. In fact, she sees a psychic because it's happening again. She says it's unfeeling, and then she tells the psychic, which is this some guy, and he's very he looks to be like 50, 60 years old. And they are talking to him, and Micah's recording the parts of the interview, because not all of it, because it ends up like in the middle of it or something. And she is talking about her childhood, and like, well, when I was a child, this thing was very present in my childhood life, but I don't remember what happened in my childhood because of that fact. And now it seems like it's could be happening again. He's like, okay, so this thing is not a ghost, is what the psychic says, because a ghost has human characteristics. It has I mean, not like a physical presence, but a when it comes to a spiritual presence. A person wants to communicate, wants has feelings, and could be malicious, but still has a sort of a conscience. But this thing has been bothering you. It seems very malicious. It's most likely a demon. They make the distinction between ghost and demon. It's like, oh, okay. So, um, and so Micah finds all this fascinating because it's like an anecdote to him because it's like, okay, this is interesting, but I don't believe it. He is 100% a skeptic. Not just like a skeptic when it comes to like if something happened to me, it would change my mind. He is like something happened to me, and I'm like, there's got to be a scientific explanation for it. He is in clear denial of anything that he sees. That's how much of a skeptic he is. You know, and so in the second night, which by the way, I only do nights as night 1, night 2, night 3, because they skip nights because nothing happens or they don't record every night, and it's like, oh, okay, so you don't know what happens sometimes, so it's like it only shows the nights that something happens, and I don't know why that is since they leave the camera on every night, but that would be a boring film, wouldn't it? So you kind of have to put that out of your head a little bit if you're going to enjoy the film, because that's kind of something I'm like, why not show all the nights? But that would be that'd be unrealistic for the audience, and that would be really boring for the audience. And you come to the conclusion like, okay, you're not showing every single night. That makes sense because it's only the nights that something happens the audience will care about, and if you're sucked in enough, it won't matter. Like that's something in the back of your mind that like doesn't really matter that much, but it can bother some people. And so night 2, that something happens, is that the door moves slightly, and apparently he never checks the footage because I'm like that would be something like, oh, the door moved, okay, that could be the air conditioning or something. But you think Michael would check the footage every night or something, but he doesn't. It's very weird. So the whole so later on during the movie, there's one of these typical false scares that now found footage has to do nowadays, because I think Paranormal Activity set a new standard when it comes to found footage movies. You're gonna have the false scare, and the false scare in this one is a spider. She gets scared by a spider. It's like, I can't believe you called him a spider. I'm like, okay, whatever. You can have your false scare, and because it's too. In fact, it's too early for anything to really happen. But it sort of sets up. This is what it turns into, as well. So you have a little foreshadowing again. Like everything's sort of a foreshadowing for something that happens later. Like when it says it's a demon, it's going to. The more you're afraid of it, the more it will escalate. The false scare, her screaming will be her screaming later on, and Micah being a skeptic again will come back later on, and him being a sort of a bad boyfriend. um, which is and just like with the and so pretty much the setup is during the day they argue, they talk about what happened, and then at night the scares happen. And the scares happen in this one room. And then it de-escalates back down. It's the Exorcist formula, where everything happens in the room, things ramp up bit by bit. It's like a small hill that goes into another, and then when you're on the flat track of the roller coaster, it goes up, and then you get to see how. And then when the except you don't get to see how big the hill is until you go down. It's like a blind track. But when it happens at night, something is going to happen. and that may be minor, but again, it's building up the suspense for something will happen. So it's very, it definitely accomplishes the simple formula from the Blair Witch in that respect, because you don't see anything. What mostly happens is up to your imagination of what the thing is doing. They can definitely feel this thing has a emotion of some kind, or has something to it. Sorry, I need to change my position. Change my position. All right. So the night three happens after the fall scare of the spider, where these bumps happen in the night, like a little like boom boom. I'm like, what in the world was that? And as the audience, you hear the footsteps of this thing, and then the bumps, and that wakes them up, and they're like, what happened? And they look around and nothing. Back to daytime, you know. And then like Micah gets a crazy idea to because something I left out for the psychic on purpose is that he said don't contact it because the more you want to, the more you encourage this thing or want to talk to it, the more it opens the realm of possibility that it gets stronger or it. So you don't want to contact it. That will make it things worse. And so, because again he's a skeptic, he wants to contact it through a Ouija board. A Ouija board. Kate says it's a bad idea. I'm like, yeah, did you not hear it? I'm like, and Katie is like so mad because yeah, I would be too if it like come on, you don't like. It's sort of like if one person was married to a religious person, and you make fun of them for being religious, they would be upset. Like, yeah, this is almost the same thing. It's like, Micah, come on, like, like, yeah, he's not. Again, like this. Oh, sorry about that. Ray, yo, oh, hey guys, I'm sorry if I didn't see you down there. Welcome in, Mission fan. I'm sorry I didn't see you there. I was focused on my notes. I should probably have put my phone up here. Thank you for the raid. Thank you very much. And people will be like, "What is he talking about?" Siki Wisdom just raided, and if you enjoy, in fact, I'm going to see if I can do a. Oh, well, it doesn't seem because you're not. I think I have to add that in. I don't know. Oh, thank you very much. I'm doing a talk about paranormal activity right now, and sorry for that. And I'll probably edit this part out when it comes later on. I can do that now. Hooray! But no, I don't know. Check out Is the fan? Shun fan. I can't speak. I don't know what I'm saying. So yeah, this is I'm in the middle of the part where he said, "I want to contact the Ouija board." He was like, "No, stop it." uh, and so yeah, it's like I said, it's like why would you be that much of a jerk? But then again, like the whole skeptic idea is actually something that is when it comes to like modern society. I can't connect. And where it's like there and like so the whole spiritual realm is to a lot of people a very 16th century idea. Like you don't know, you think spirits and all this like stuff exists because you live very archaic. It's a medieval type of idea, and and so there are some people like that. No matter what you say to them, are complete in their unfaith, in their faith in what they see with their own eyes. Yeah. So talk amongst yourselves over there, because like I know it's not. By the way, this isn't a great impression of of my streams because usually it's gameplay. I apologize for people, but I want to do something different for Halloween, and this is how much different I can do. So I'm just so yeah. This Micah skeptic is very frustrating for the audience, but I think this character is completely believable on how he handles the the situation of Katie's religious views. Falco talk streets. Indeed it is. And well, it's the talking without the gameplay. I promise to go back to gameplay really soon because believe it or not, I'm getting sort of tired of doing this, but I want to play something on stream. Probably next time I'll probably work on. I want to hear more. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, not her religious views, but her spiritual views, because she's been targeted by this demon as a kid, and she doesn't remember all of it, and so therefore she's very open to the idea of spirits and the idea that there's another world out there that we can't see. And Micah is direct opposite. He's a 100% skeptic. What he can't see with his eyes or can't detect with, with a scientific view, doesn't exist. It's so they're both believable where they're coming from. It's just that Micah's a jerk about it. Yes, I do. Yes, because her name is Katie. Yes, not check out Absolute Katie as well as Hishin fan that's on my stream. I'm sorry if I said that wrong again. Dies a shame. Yes. So yeah, I go over that again. That's fine. So night 4 happens. The whole night night 4 when something happens, because it's not really night 4. I forget what night it is, but regardless, something slams, like as the door is always open, and well, they close the door, and they're like, it doesn't matter, this thing closes and opens the door all the time, so we'll just leave it open. And an open door to a bedroom is actually kind of psychologically scary a little bit, because when you go to sleep and you leave your door open, anything could just walk through. It's definitely in my experience. I'm like, whenever I leave my door open, I'm like, I don't like that I can't see out there. Even though I know it's the same during the daytime. I know this, but when I can't see outside my room, and I know that there's a door open, I want to close it. So they don't keep the door closed, and I'm like, why don't you close the door? Just close the door. And so you hear something from the hallway, or it could be in the kitchen, or it could be downstairs, but it jars them up out of bed, and I'm like, and they're like, what the heck was that? And they go investigate, and of course he takes the camera with him because it's up against the wall. It's on a tripod, as we learn later, or earlier. And they're searching around, and you see the chandelier is shaking. And they're like, whoa, it was like a... I mean, they live in California, so it could have been a mild earthquake. But who knows? Like, again... Katie attributes it to this demon, and Micah's like, oh, you and your demon. And not only that, like, Katie's kind of getting tired of being followed around by a camera. It's like, just stop. Because again, that comes from the blueprint of the Blair Witch, where it's like, stop with the camera. Why are you with the camera now? Except now, instead of a documentary, it's just that he's actually annoying her because, again, he's pointing fun at Katie's belief in the supernatural. So yeah, and the movie kind of ramps up a little bit because it just goes from one night to the other. And so, like, there's a bunch of stuff that happens in the next night, which is night 5 when something happens. Uh, Kate stays around for a long time, and then she just leaves. And she leaves through the door, through the open door, and Micah wakes up because I don't know if there's like a human like barrier when you know that something is there and something is not there, even though you can't see it, or even though you're asleep. When something changes in your surroundings, you kind of know. Like, for example, how do you know you're not being watched sometimes, or you can kind of sense when you're being watched by somebody. It's sort of like that. And so he wakes up and he's like, "Where is Katie?" And so he takes the camera because this could be something worth catching. Because even though he's doesn't believe, he wants to catch it on tape because it's like, I want to like document this now because it's getting kind of cool. And so he goes to he gets the camera and he finds Kitty outside in like this sort of rocking chair, and it's like 60 degrees outside because it's California. I mean, it's in California, so it's in the desert, so it's probably like, I don't know, 40 degrees outside because the when it comes to like arid places, they're usually cold, way colder at night than they are during the day. It's two extremes, and so he's like, "It's freezing out here." Like, well, what are you doing out here? And she just stares into blank space with this weird look on her face. It doesn't really bother her, and she's like, "Well, if you want to stay out here instead, I can get a blanket." And she's like, "I'm like, um, I'm like, I think something's really wrong with her." And then he walks back inside, and the TV is on, and he's like, "How'd that happen?" Again, not believing, like, and like that TV was not on in the bedroom, but and so she walks back in. It's like, oh my gosh, jump scare. She's right there behind him, and they go back to sleep. Apparently, it's like, oh my gosh, like it's getting like so bad for them now because now they're starting to have like tension during the day because one is disbelief, and so they'll have this argument. They'll have arguments. They'll have about their living conditions, about how they sleep, about we just have to prepare for the night, and then we're okay. But it's disturbing. But at least we're okay. Nothing's really happening to us. During as long as we hold on during the night, we will be okay. This is our mental. This is Micah's mental state, and Katie's mental state is she's being scared day by day, which is probably increasing the power of this demon they can't see. You know, and so during the day, Micah is comforting Katie at least, and saying we have to stay strong. We have to stay strong. We have to if they have to go through this because leaving the house won't work because it's following Katie around. So yeah, so that leaving house thing doesn't work. The and so like during that time, he gets a Ouija board out and he starts to like use it, and Katie's like, "You idiot! No, don't do it." He's like, "What do you think's been happening all this time?" I'm like, "You really want to do that?" And so like he leaves the they leave to go to, I think, dinner. I'm not too sure about that. And you see the planchette move. By the way, that's what it is. That's the eye hole thing. On the Ouija board, it's called a planchette, and it starts to move, and then it catches fire. And the reason why it catches fire is to scar words into it. So it's a very like good shot of this. It's very it could take you out of it, but it's so minor that it's still believable within its own world. It it explains how the burn marks are going into some things. But the thing, yeah, I know it's a. I don't because it's definitely one of the scenes that they use their production value because it just burns fire. I forget what it says though. That's the thing. I'm like, what does it say? And like, I believe it's some kind of script that they don't understand. And it's like, what does this mean? And Micah begins to look it up. And so, but before they can do that, they have another, before the night, the sixth night where something goes on, Micah tries powder on the floor. He's like, because if this thing really exists, mean, take a upset. I can't read that. So he tries powder on the floor, and he's like, if this thing really exists, we're gonna catch it in the act, in order to get footprints. Again, he's making fun of Katie during this time. It's like even though he's putting powder on the floor, they catch this thing, they catch footprints, they catch proof, you know, and but again, he's making fun of Katie for her belief that it is in fact a demon. It's like okay, because that would definitely destroy his worldview of everything being tangible. So night six happens. And again, like loud footsteps wake this couple up, and of course they had the door closed this time because, well, they have the door closed for one reason, because they don't want you to see how they made the footprints without a person being there. But still, I'm sure they're learning their lesson somewhat about leaving the door open. And they find footsteps in the powder at night, and but you don't see them at first. But they turn on the light function on this camera, and like, oh my gosh, like there's stuff, and they follow it to a part of the attic or the crawl space. It's not an attic; it is the crawl space. I call it the attic, but technically it's a crawl space. And they find a burned photo of Katie as a child, and she's like, I don't remember taking this picture. Like I do not remember. This is and she's like, well, my like a house burnt down or something, and it doesn't give the full details of it because she doesn't remember her parts of her childhood. Which, by the way, is in one of the sequels, and it explains why they burn it. Like, so, and then, and so, like, Micah does more research and talking about like, so it's like you're pretty much to blame for the demon being here, anyways. And that gets her more upset. Is like, why do you think it's letting you do it? It is messing with you. This demon is messing with you, Micah. And like, this is so true to the audience because I'm like, yeah, he's being cute, I guess. This demon, or call me him, but it's like this demon is just messing with you, or it's getting power. Oh, thank you very much. Hang on, I need to see who just did that. Sorry about that, but I want to see who that was. No. And oh, well, thank you very much, Haitian fan. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. So going back to the picture, so I don't lose it. No. And I promise I don't just do these. I actually do gameplay, and probably the next gameplay I'll do is probably Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh yeah, I will. I will make sure to remind me. Make sure to remind me, and I will do that later. Or you can put it in Discord. I do have a Discord. You can always tell me there You know, you. And um, so pretty much at the man, it's yeah. So I did mention some nights are not filmed, some nights aren't even mentioned, and some nights nothing happens. Like obviously, they're able to get by, you know. Okay, I already went that. Oh no. And so again, night again, like another night happens where like it just slams the door, waking them up, and they go searching, and again nothing really happens except the door slams, and again this thing is seemed to be not just messing with them but growing in power because it just and then the next day after like I don't know probably like 15 nights of this tension just builds and builds during the day. And it seems like they are like this couple is drifting apart more and more because this ideological fight that they've been having like is definitely behind the scenes of what they're talk of their conversations because when they may be arguing about what they need to do, they're really arguing about their ideological stances on is this for real or not? Because it really does feel like that. And then it it this demon breaks its own rules, or I should say the movie breaks its own rules, but have something happen during the day because that doesn't usually happen, which means it is and it kind of says it's had enough. It's now powerful enough to do what it needs to do. And when it does is that the demon apparently throws a picture of the couple on from the wall to the floor upstairs, and even Micah points out like, why is my half covered up? You know, like why is it shattered? What? How come you're basically okay? You know, and my side of the picture is really bad, and so again, that's that's the demon that's the demon foreshadowing what it wants to do. I say he because it's easier. With the demon, what it wants to do. All right. So night 7 is where it pretty much starts climbing around, and I need to get this I need to get this notepad working because I need you can hear the fan. And the reason I had the fan on is because I'm so close to a highway and you can hear everything in the house. So the fan muffles the sounds from the streets and from within the house. So that's why the fan is on. So during the 7th night where something happens, the demon drags her out of bed. I mean, and here's the thing: it starts out small, like it undoes the covers, like it pretty much does get rid of these covers, and and drags her by her foot first, and then just goes yoink, and really drags her out of the bed, and she goes screaming outside, like outside of the room, and that's the room you see right there, like it. And then like Micah wakes up because she is screaming her head off for help, and it slams the door. But here's the thing, though: it doesn't lock the door. It doesn't force the door shut by some kind of force field. Like he just opens the door and finds her and brings her back in. And I'm like, oh, geez, like this thing is not messing around. And then you find out like a few seconds later that like it was like she feels pain in her in the back, like in her lower back, and it turns out that the demon bit her. Like there was like a bite mark, and it's bleeding, and so if you ever seen any other film in your life, you know that this means that the the demon has gotten to to her and is probably going to possess her. And I believe that's a I don't know. Like I forget what kind of lore that is. Where if you find a bite mark on you, that means it's got its claws into you. But you know, you hear horror stories about that happening. Where, or like if you ever been around YouTube enough, where you start hearing true horror stories, you'll hear about biting, like something biting people, or some kind of like scary documentary about an event that happened. They usually make a movie out of. There's biting done by malicious forces. So it's not an uncommon thing to use in this found footage movie, which was found by police, just like the Blair Witch. But again, why in the world would they release it to the movie theaters? Like, why would you do that? We're gonna release it to the public, and we're gonna do it through a movie theater because we need the cash. Like, okay, sure. So, but then again, like, my personal experience was watching on a laptop, and I think it was more effective that way because when I watched on a laptop, I got absorbed into it. I thought I was watching a YouTube video instead of a you know, a movie, because it was like one of those like I wasn't the person who grew up with the internet being born, really. I sort of like, all it was to me was you downloaded a JPEG of Dragon Ball GT and that was it. You know, it's like, I can print this out, hooray! Like, you know, and it took hours to download a JPEG. You know, like, I mean, to print a JPEG from the internet, it took hours. And so I was never on the internet that much because we had a crappy phone line connection, and we were on the phone a lot. My parents were, so you never got to be on the internet for longer than probably 45 minutes because when you pick up the phone, you got disconnected. And so it's sort of like watching one of those early videos from like the early internet, or where it's like apparently there's a one called Ebon's World, or like where you just watch like eerie videos sometimes, or it's almost like a dark web video where it's like you found this footage and we've ripped it straight from a live feed from a laptop. You know, it's like, it's kind of like that. And so when I watched on my laptop, I was like, it was like I was a investigator looking at this disturbing footage, and I couldn't hear the hum of the of when the demon entered. So I was like, is he coming in? I can't hear it. You know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like something actually happened. You know, I was like, I was glued to my screen searching for something, like it was a screamer. You know, like it was definitely more effective at absorbing me into looking at it because I watch it on a laptop, which is like, people say never watch it on a laptop or something like that. I'm like, no, actually, it's probably better because it lets you see it in a different light, you know. But yeah, it was that was my that's why I kind of liked it better than probably should, because I watched it on a laptop, and it was and it didn't manipulate me as much. You know, it was very pure through the laptop. So, anyways, and so on the and during the okay, so after that, she goes and she starts doing all this crazy stuff, but then all of a sudden she's like, I'm fine now. She's like, I'm completely fine. You know, and the audience is like, that's the demon. Like, that's definitely the demon, like, saying that I am fine. You know. and Micah's like, okay, I guess you're fine now, because like you were acting strange and doing all this weird stuff. So yeah, I guess everything's good. And so they go to the last night, which is night 8, when something happens. So Kate sits up like a robot, like she is programmed to do this. And walks out the door, and she is out of sight. She doesn't even stand around like she did before for hours upon end. And then all of a sudden, she screams at the top of her lungs. You could just hear the horrifying things in her voice. She screams for Micah, no, no. I think this is their last of her resistance going, and she cries out for help. Or it could be a trick by the demon. Who knows? So Micah goes running because he is actually like good enough for Micah to be concerned enough to actually run, but he wished he would have ran out the house instead. You need to get out, because as soon as like you see Micah leave, and comes like, and she starts, and he doesn't take the camera, so all you do is hear him trying to, I think, help her out, and all of a sudden, like, silence. A long period of silence. Like, when it comes to tension, like, tension-filled atmosphere at this point, I'm like, what happened enough where it's just silent? And it feels like a long time before something else happens. And your eyes, because you know where the door is open, where they went, so your eyes are glued to that door. And you're like, what is going on? What? And you're just waiting for something to happen, or someone to walk in or say something. And that's where the tension comes from when this comes to the final shot. And all of a sudden, like, you see something zoom toward the camera, and you know from what the shape is that this is Micah's body. Micah's body was thrown at the camera. And this is such a brilliant, like, jump scare for, like, oh man. Because it heightens that tension, and then something happens, I'm like, that's a good jump scare. And that leads to Katie being right behind him. Like, the camera falls over, and then you see Katie. And Katie is just like, there's something on, like, there's something on her chest. It could be blood. Who knows what it is? It's blue and white, and I mean, it's in dark vision, so you can't see true light. I mean, true color. I mean, it's not in living color. So yeah. So and she walks up to the camera very slowly, and then makes a demon face, and then jump scares the camera, which is probably the bad jump scare. And I'm like, yeah, that's a bad jump scare. People know that was coming, because you have to end with the jump scare in these modern sort of movies. But that was their money shot. That was their budget went toward that face, and it shows that yes, this is what the demon wanted all along, to resist the resistances of Katie, and to be inside of her body and take her soul over. And Micah probably did a worse. It's probably Micah's fault. But then again, we don't know that for sure. But it seems like Micah sort of evacuates things and denies things, making her question herself. Some of that blame is put on Micah. That's all I'm saying. And then there's text ending saying that police found Micah's body, and Katie is still on the loose. Her location is unknown. And then it ends. There's not really any credits. It just ends because it would destroy the purposes of the found footage movie to say there was something, you know, to say that there was a credits, there was credits in the movie. But I'm sure you can find credits on the movie somewhere, but not in the theaters and not on home video. And so, or the I think the DVD does, but I'm not sure about that. But yeah, so and really effective sort of evolution of what the Blair Witch did, because with the Blair Witch Project was very artificial, and then Hollywood was trying to make their own sort of sequel from that, and it didn't work out. But when somebody said we're going to try it from the same angle, from the same perspective, and then we're going to put it in a room so it looks very non-artificial, and then only add very few special effects that we can use because we have a bigger budget. You have something that is quite effective at being a spiritual successor of the Blair Witch Project, and also being like it's sort of an exorcist sort of movie where the demon wins 100%. It's like, and sorry for the spoilers there, but yeah, this is what this is. I'm talking about the whole thing. We're talking about it, and okay, I want to talk about the sequels for a bit, I guess. I'm not saving the sequels for later, unlike, some of the other movies probably, I don't know. But Paranormal Activity 2, I'm not going to, I'm just going over the first movie, and then I'm going to go over the other movies a little bit, but not in full detail. Paranormal Activity 2 is the other side of the family, where Katie's sister owns this house, and she is very rich. Yes, there are sequels. There are many sequels. And knockoffs. Like, when you have a successful franchise, you have knockoffs and sequels. Paranormal Activity 2 is where the sister comes in and they're trying to remember them as kids, and again, the sister doesn't remember either, but she is rich. I mean, she has a pool in her backyard. She has a 2-story house with a basement. They have a dog and a baby. And they have I can't remember if they have another kid or not. But pretty much what happens is, and it turns out Paranormal Activity 2 is a prequel. And because at the very end of the movie, Katie comes by with their boyfriend, Micah, and then they go off to have their adventure in Paranormal Activity 1 at the end of the Paranormal Activity 2. Because in this one, they actually do fight off the demon because of a housekeeper. The housekeeper knows all, and she's Hispanic, spiritual, like, character in it. I'm like, sure. And so, like, and one of the things they do to get you on the human side real fast is they hurt the dog. The dog is not killed, but it is injured. And it's like, you don't, and the dog, what the dog does, it protects the baby. Because this demon is after this baby now. And so to go after the baby, it goes after the mom, and the mom gets possessed. And it's a really cool shot where she is upstairs, and she is dragged all the way from upstairs all the way to the basement. And then she starts to act differently, just like Katie did. And so they, under the advice of this housekeeper, they exorcise the sister, the mom. And so, but during the end, Katie comes by possessed after the original Paranormal Activity, and she kills like the family while the daughter is away, because they do have a daughter, and she's the one that records everything and finds out everything. So they do have another kid, and Katie steals the baby. She's like, "Boop, my baby." And yeah, so everyone's dead except for the daughter. So she's gonna come home from college probably, or from spring break. I think she's on like a spring break something, and her parents are dead. So yeah, so the demon wins again in the end. Paranormal Activity 3 is another prequel. It's what happens when they were kids, and it fills in the gaps of the loss of memory. And so it turns out that they made a deal with the dark forces to get rich and powerful, and the grandma is a witch of some kind, and she made the deal for rich and powerful, and which is why they're rich in the second one, and so this guy who back in the 80s is a videographer, and he tapes weddings and all that stuff, and so he wants to make a sex video with his wife, and what happens is like there's an earthquake in California. Shocking, I know. Get it? Shocking. And so like afterwards, the something settles on something, and there's something there. Like there's an outline and it moves, and he actually investigates the footage, and it's like, oh my gosh, yes, shock like quake, and so he's like, huh, that's interesting. Because it's the 80s, he can't just set up a camera wherever he wants. So he actually rigs a camera to go back and forth on a rotating fan in the corner downstairs, and then sets up a camera in the daughter's bedroom, Katie and the sister. And so you have a bunch of angles to look at during the night, just like in the second one where they use security footage, because they get security footage because someone tried to ransack their home, which is the demon. And so they're like, it must have been robbers, so they set up cameras. Like, there is a reason. He's really curious about this thing, so he wants to investigate it just like Micah, except this guy watches his footage with his friend. And then they get a babysitter who mocks the demon, and then this demon dresses up in a bed cloak, like in Beetlejuice. He dresses up in bed sheets with holes, and mocks the demon. Before it's like, ooh, there's a demon in the house, huh? There's a ghost. Ooh, that's scary. I'm really scared now. And so the babysitter, which is this probably like older teenager, probably in her early 20s. I don't know. Like it's between that age. She's definitely in school because she's there studying while the children are asleep. And so you see the rotating fan camera, and it shows the demon standing there in bed sheets. And of course, there's nothing under there, And so when she turns around, the bed sheets disappear, and she goes to check on the kids, and all of a sudden, like a burst of air, like inside that room, butts at her face, and growls, and it scares the living crap out of her. And she goes downstairs, and when the parents go home, she's like, "I'm done. I am done here. Bye, bye, bye." And so him and his the husband and the friend checking the footage, and they're like, "Holy crap, what happened?" And so like the friend wants to communicate more with this demon thing, and so like it wants, and so the friend of the husband talks to Katie. It's like, oh no, it's like Toby doesn't like to be asked questions. She starts to have tea parties with Toby. That's what the demon is called by the little girls, is Toby. And and there's like a closet where they go and they play Bloody Mary, like like don't do that, no. And of course, like something happens, and they can't get out the door. It starts slamming like crazy, and the friend of the dad in that situation, who is the outsider, it's like I'm done too. Like this is too much, and leaves and said you better. And it's like you better start like fearing for your life was what this guy says pretty much, and pretty much and so like everybody who is not the family are considered outsiders, like the husband is like the new husband, and so like the demon wants to go by grandma's and tells the little girls it's like and tells the little girls this, and but because of what the demon did before, scaring off everybody and being a jerk to people, the Katie is like, I do not, and like I don't like you anymore, Toby. Like what you're doing is wrong. And at that point, you can see, like you can't really see it, but you feel the thing get angry. Like if anger had a feeling, it would be the scene where she tells him that you're not my friend anymore. I'm like, oh, Toby doesn't like that. We're gonna call him Toby from now on, Toby. And he hates it. He hates it. And in fact, like even like Katie is like, we should probably go to Grandma's. And it's like, no, we're not going to Grandma's. That's what the mom says. And so the rotating camera comes into play again, where you see the kitchen as it was, and then when it comes back, everything in the kitchen is gone. It is completely gone, and it's probably one of the better jump scares in found footage history. It's gone, and she's like, "What the heck? Where did all my like furniture in the kitchen? Where did everything go?" And all of a sudden, when she tries to walk in, everything from the ceiling drops. And you didn't know it was on the ceiling until it drops. And it's like, she goes, okay, we're going to Grandma's. Okay, we're going, okay. And so they go to Grandma's. And when another disturbing scene happens where they're playing dress up with Grandma in Grandma's house. Which, by the way, Grandma's house is huge. It's like a... let's see how I'm gonna put this. It's like a ranch house. I mean, it's a like for like Texas royalty. And like it's fancy. It's got like it's like, geez, man, it's like a homestead, like except better. So I mean, it's very rustic, but it's very fancy. And so they're playing dress up with Grandma. And is like and the daughter's like, we're getting married, and it's like, to who? And it's like, and Katie's like, Toby, and the dad is like, no, we're not doing this, and grabs him away from Grandma. But it's like, oh no, that's a disturbing thing to say. Oh my god. And so, and it continues. You see a whole bunch of stuff happen that the dad records. Well, the new dad. I mean, I don't know what happened to the other dad. And so, it's kind of funny. He hears things going on in the other parts of the garage, and he opens this garage, and you see like a bunch of old women in robes, like they're Emperor Palpatines. It's like and they all kind of point, not really point, but they all face the door, and they start like Terminator walking, ride the cart toward him. He's like, nope, shuts the door, and then he finds the wife, and she's dead. I'm like, oh, and she gets thrown from the stairs, and then like then you see the old lady come up to the camera, you know, and because the husband's on the floor, and the husband's like neck gets snapped by Toby by the grandmother's command. And it's a hand gesture. She's like, woof, you know, like there's a force push going on somewhere. And then Toby's like, and I'm like, geez, man. He gets like folded in half, I think. I'm not sure. But like, geez, man. And that's the end of the good Paranormal Activity movies. Because two and three are really not that bad. You should go. If you like Paranormal Activity, you should go check these out. They're not that bad. They definitely explain a lot, like about what the other one did. And four was about like following the kid. It finally is a true sequel. You know, the kid grows up under the demon, and so that's the experience of what happened. And they use the Xbox. What was that Xbox thing that they said they couldn't get rid of? The iToy? No, that's the PlayStation. Where you move stuff, your body is the controller. Red Ring of Death? No, it's it's that one integral part they said they could never get rid of, and it was shown off to be like, oh my gosh, you can use your body to control. Connect. That's it. Connect. Yeah, they show up the Connect green dots at night, and so like you would see the demon inside the Connect dots, and I'm like, oh, I'm like that's kind of interesting, I guess. But yeah, four is not good, and then they went off the rails with this whole found footage thing, and people got sick of found footage. It's kind of funny. It took M. Night Shyamalan to revive the found footage a little bit. It's like if M. Night Shyamalan is saving is saving your genre, you got issues. But yeah, whew, oh man, I think that's the end. We're gonna talk about the this thing as a whole. It talks about the it definitely again it changed movies. Yeah, the guy with everything he touches, sort of. But yeah, he was of course like the thing with M Night is like people blew smoke up his butt, and then he believed his own hype, and then created Lady in the Water. I'm like, oh, okay. I like Signs. I liked Sixth Sense. I liked The Happening because it's so funny. Oh, you mean The Sixth Sense? Yeah, Sixth Sense is actually like a. Then there was The Village. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like people say Signs is really bad, and I'm like, it could have been a lot worse. Those are good. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard the that recent one, the found footage one he did was good. I haven't seen it. Yeah, but everyone knows the twist of The Village, and if you know the twist, it's very not good. Done with him. Yeah, pretty much. I forget his new movie that was pretty good. That was said to be pretty good. Oh yeah, there was Unbreakable. I'm done with him. There was Unbreakable. That was something. I kind of like that movie, but yeah, I'd say like he's more miss than hit, definitely. Because like people thought like After Earth was gonna be good. Yeah, Unbreakable with Bruce Willis is actually pretty good. It's his take on superheroes. Begin, yeah. You mean After Earth? Yeah, After Earth. Okay, if we're gonna talk about that, then I need to get rid of this. Escape!